Hello.
Hello.
Hi once again, and welcome to another podcast in the Awaking Happiness series. Hello there, Desi.
Hello, Chris. Welcome, everybody.
And today's episode is Don't Underestimate the Power of Sowing a Seed. And of course, if you enjoy these podcasts and you want to be notified when we um, release another, then go on to the bottom there, click on subscribe and like the video and click that bell thing and tick all, and then YouTube will notify you when we post a new video. So this one, never underestimate the power of sowing a seed. What's prompted this then, Desi?
Well, we've been getting ready at our allotment with the plants for the next season. And seeds are in my head these days. When am I going to plant them? How long it takes for each type of individual plant to grow? When do they need to be planted? And also, if we think about it in a more metaphorical way, what is it when we're planting a seed in other people's minds or uh, in other people's lives? You know, we have this saying about teachers planting seeds in young minds. So what's going on with that? And obviously, we know about an acorn turning into an oak. It's just a matter of time. So as we were talking about this topic, we thought, okay, what is a seed then? If we know that if I plant an acorn, I'm going to get an oak, nothing else. I'm not going to get a tomato plant. It's because there is a certain type of potential in this acorn that will reveal itself into the big tree that it will become.
Mm.
So what is a seed is this potential, this information that this is going to happen. We just need a little time, we need the right conditions, and we're going to have, if you're patient enough and no squirrel comes and eats the acorn, we're going to have an oak tree eventually.
Well, I think
And
then,
this oak tree will provide home for another squirrel, for birds. It will make lots of leaves. It will shed them all over the place, so the worms will like those. It's just the whole cycle of potential.
and I mean, I suspect that a lot of squirrels are responsible for more work trees because they cart them off, and then they might miss a few on the way or whatever, and deliver them somewhere, and then they germinate and they get. So I suspect that I have to admire these people these uh, people who built these amazing gardens that you get in these stately homes, because the people that designed them probably never gonna see them in their most delightful way. But anyway, that's another story for a bit later. But yeah, so we have to have patience though for these things. These idea, the idea of a seed, as it were, which is kind of leading on to the next thing. But this seed's going to take time to germinate, and time and care and attention, and otherwise it won't reach its potential. In those, I was reading about 5 things that people do wrong when they're planting tomatoes. And they're things we've learned and that we've recognised, but mulching, planting the roots deep, and and all this kind of stuff that you kind of pick up as you go along. But yeah, there is a responsibility for taking care of germinating that seed, and that's equivalent to the seeds in people. And the thing is, you just never know what's going to happen. Do you? You have no idea, and this is like yeah. If you look back at your life, like as a child at school, if someone had said to you, "Oh, you're going to be in England, living in Bushy, just outside London," you'd gone, "What? how's that ever going to happen? Do you know what I mean? It's like I can't even speak English. I'm like a Bulgarian, like in a tiny little village, so in the middle of nowhere. How am I going to ever end up in like just outside London living? It's like it's as far away from your imagination as possible. Yet it happened.
Yeah, it's interesting though. If sometimes it's like in the Bible, you know, some seeds fell on the stones, on the rocks, and they never germinated. Then other ones fell on what was the gravel or something, and they developed only very shallow roots, so they didn't last long because when the drought came, they just dried out. They didn't have enough water. So, and then there was these other ones who fell on very fertile ground, and they grew up to be very good crops. So sometimes these we have these. If somebody says to us, "Oh, you're going to be this and this," and why don't you are this and this, you can become that and that, and we have this resistance. I say, okay, there is the idea, but nah, I don't like that. Or oh, how can I do? So we have this depends where we say this the seed is the idea, but where it falls or what kind of environment it ends up to be, it depends whether this idea will become anything of it. So like the squirrel and the oak, the acorns, well, the squirrel might eat the acorn, so it won't become a tree, or it might dig it and bury it, and then it will.
Well,
Well, it
again,
might.
if it's far away enough from other trees and the conditions are right, it
Yeah,
still can go horribly wrong. Like why does an oak tree produce so many acorns? Because only a tiny fraction of them are going to end up where they need to be in order to
further
produce.
away from the tree. We have in Bulgarian a saying that you can only find, well, an apple only falls under the tree. So when we say it, we refer to it as children can only be like their parents, because there's an apple can only drop under the tree. You can't go and become someone something else. But you were saying when we were thinking about this seed equal idea, um, label. You were talking about your experience with your software and the contact management system that you created for someone.
Yeah, so like there's a whole raft of reasons. Like, we are incredibly poor. Like we are rubbish, absolutely rubbish at predicting the future. We are woeful at it, and yet we put so much faith in our belief about what we can create or what we can, what can happen in the future, and we have no idea. Like it's not even worth thinking about or spending any time worrying about it or planning it, because at the end of the day, it's unlikely to happen like that, or any of it is unlikely to happen. And like if you say there's software, so what happened was at the start I created a software application. Someone commissioned me to write a database, a contact management database. No idea why really, because there was plenty of off-the-shelf contact management systems out there. People could just go in and buy one. You could, there were lots of them. But no, they wanted one written for them. For only there must have been pride and ego and stuff coming in here, because they were prepared to spend a lot more money for me to write it specifically under their directions. Anyway, of course, they know nothing about writing software and they know nothing about how software works. So they were basically saying, we wanted to do this, 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 and this. And basically, with my previous knowledge of content management systems and everything else, I was able to craft something that they really liked. So this wasn't like, oh yeah, software's good. This software's amazing. It saves us loads of time and effort and money, and it's just brilliant. Like because they were doing quotes. I mean, in those days, the whole software industry was basically evolving, and what you were in, well, they were in the hardware business as well, which was, and basically it was they were doing lots of quotes and getting less and less successful businesses, successful clients. So what happened? Success in their quotes. So what was transforming here was actually more quotes to get the same amount of business. So quotes became really important, and being able to pull up a quote of a previous previous incarnation of a quote and be able to sort of tinker with it and save it as a new one and get it out the door became very, very important. And that's what software did. Now, then I migrated to my business. They were all in one office in Hemel. That was easy, right? Because they could all put it on the server and everyone could access it from their desk, no problem. But then there came the problem which was my company, where we didn't have an office. We had 3 people working in their own homes, different locations. Well, how does that work then? Because you've only got the one database. You have to keep sending it to the others for them to update their bit and then send it back for me. But they couldn't do it when they were getting the information. They have to write it down somewhere. So what we needed was a centrally located database which we could all access. Hey, welcome to the internet. Welcome to online systems which enable anyone to access from wherever they are. So the first incarnation of the software was created, which we used ourselves, by the way. That was the main reason for doing it, was so that we could use it. And then, of course, that led on to other people, because first of all, people had no idea you could do such a thing. So there was a huge technology barrier, like people saying, "Oh, I don't believe you." Well, no, we're doing it. No, I don't believe you. It can't be done. No, it's being done. And I would log in to my system at their offices and say, "Look, there you go. There's your account. Look, there you go. I've said I'm coming down."
Like you're tapping with your fingers as if you're now logging in.
Yeah. And they still not believe you. They still not believe you. And I remember one of my clients. It was a bigger company. They ended up being my biggest customer, 25 million turnover. And one day it snowed. It was 2009 or something. It really snowed hard, and they couldn't get to the office. And I said, "We can log in at home." Right, and it was the first time the realization, the penny dropped, and they realized, oh, now I get what you were talking about, because they were all working out of the office, and then when it snowed, they were all at home, but like they couldn't go into the office because no one could get around. It's in the Pennines, so basically they were logging in at home. Oh, this is good, isn't it? Like it's like they had the system 3 years. Really appreciated the power of the system because they never ever had to use it in the context of that. But sowing the seed, I had no idea where this was going to go. But basically, the seed was sown. It was sown by myself. And even my business partner, Morris, he's turn around and say, "You sure we're on the right track here? You sure?" There's nobody else doing this. I keep scouring the newspapers and no one's doing it. I said, "There's an opportunity there, Morris." because in reality, software on the internet meant, in terms of distribution of the software, you could just update it from your desk and then have a new version in the morning. You'd have to send them a load of disks.
No, it was just like now everybody knows about this and nobody's questioning it. But in those days, it was like, what?
I said,
What are you talking about? I
to
wonder what it's like. What we are thinking about now and how we're reacting to the idea of the metaverse, where that's going to take us. We have no idea. It's the seed. There is the potential in it.
In 2002, when I set up the company to run this, having developed it, Morris said, "Are we on the right track?" I said, "Look, in 2015, nobody will be installing software on their own machines. No, nobody. No one's." I said, "It's not because they decided that they're going to do it. No one's going to write software that requires all that maintenance and sending out new disks." I said, "From us, the people writing the software just won't do that because it doesn't make any sense. And consequently, the consumers will buy that because there'll be nothing else available to them." It's nothing to do with the consumer. It's got everything to do with the producer producing what that works for them, not what works for the customer. It does work for the customer as well, by the way. It was a win-win for everybody, but it takes a long while to educate people. Now, like loading an application, downloading it into your server, it's like no one's going to do that. So anyway, that was the idea. It was sown from stuff, but we have them all over the place. Like like seeds are sown by in every walk of life, every single day, and they're ideas. Basically, an idea comes to you, an idea is given to you, an idea is that the ideas are 10 a penny. If you have ideas, they're just all over the shop. The trouble is making an idea into something that works.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Patience
Yeah,
and perseverance.
and tenacity and consistency and persistency and all these
Like,
words we
I'm learning this now. Oh dear.
doesn't happen overnight. You
I
can't
thought I was patient. Now I know I wasn't.
you can't put right. You can't put a butternut seed in the ground and next week have butternuts. It doesn't work like that. You can't put a tomato seed there. Why are we putting tomato seeds in February, right? When you can't put them out in the ground until the end of May, right? That's February, March, April. That's like 4 months. Isn't the plant going to go all like weird by then? Well, the answer is no. It takes a while for it to germinate. It takes a while for it to grow. It needs potting on. Then it needs to be nurtured. Then it goes into a sort of inside out situation, like a cold frame, where in the cold days it can be shut down, in the open, in the warm days it can be open. And then come the end of May, you have a plant that's yay big, and you can plant it in the ground outside, and it then produces tomatoes because it's halfway there. It's got flowers on it already. Now, like, and then it produces tomatoes, and then come August, you might be eating some ripe tomatoes. Had you planted the seeds in February,
February. Mm.
well, people are going February. I haven't even worked out what I'm doing yet. I'm like, I'm not. I probably won't be able to put them in until April. Okay, well, you'll be eating tomatoes, green ones, in October.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, because
I thought that your plants are gonna die. You'll have to pull them out earlier than that.
yeah,
Well,
well,
we're talking UK climate here. We're not talking anywhere else. It's a
no,
little bit peculiar here compared to what I know in Bulgaria. Um, but anyway, some young people I know because I've got young adults in my house. Their impression and their attitude is, "Gosh, this is hard work. Why bother?"
well, it's hard work until it's the only work.
Yeah.
It's called food security, isn't it? It's like it's fun, it's healthy, it's you get to value food properly, not just like it's only a quid or 2 quid for that, or vegetables are really cheap. Like but that's only because they're available. What if they're not available? Then how cheap are they? Well,
Yeah.
it's careful.
I like it how we keep going from real seeds to metaphorical seeds. So let's move on to the next metaphorical seed, which is equal guidance. And here you were saying something interesting about, um, what would such and such say?
Yeah, I mean,
In
what you say? Um,
Oh dear, what's happening?
coffee drinking.
maybe I speak about this.
Okay, no, I mean, guidance is like I learned this back in my 20s. Like if it's like having an imaginary uh, board of a limited company. Let's say you set up a limited company, and now instead of having like people that you know today in your company, you list the people that you think would be able to give you really good advice. So it might, in your terms of spirituality, it might be the Dalai Lama or whatever flavor Muhammad or the Buddha or whatever, whoever, or Jesus, whoever is your spiritual guide, right? And you put yourself in, and then you've got business, right? Who do you respect in business? You think's good at good at investing? Who's good at software or internet development? Who's good at? So you build up this group of people, your tip top people who you trust and believe that if they were alive today, could have been Tesla, for example, who are alive today, who would they be? And then what happens is when you get into a situation that requires the input of a particular service function, if you like, you say, okay, what would this person do? You don't know, you can't ask them, but what would this person have done in this situation. And like, you don't have to do what you think they would have done because they haven't been privy to all the developments between then and now. But they're a good guide to. So it could be a really tricky situation with a friend or with a business with a partner or a child, whatever. And you say to yourself, okay, what would Buddha or Jesus or Muhammad's response have been to this problem? And of course, it would have come from a position of love and maybe tough love, in that the person has to go through this experience in order
Mm-hmm.
to really appreciate. A bit like that person who got stuck in the snow. They only really appreciated the system when the problem hit. Like, and like it, you just, like, we don't know what's going to happen as a result of the person doing the thing they're doing. All we can do is share how we think it might go. And like with this guidance thing, like I sometimes think if it's about integrity and authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
I refer to Morris. If it's about spiritual things, I might rely, if refer to what the Dalai Lama did because he's alive. What would he do in this situation? Or if it's in business, I would look for, or investment guidance, I would look for people who do those things. So it's about, you've got to get them together. Like, you've got people that you value in kind of awareness of the body, like that guy who's been involved in what's his name? Involved in
Joe
psycho,
Dispenza. Oh, Bruce Lipton.
yeah, who's Lipton. So you respect and totally, you love to spend a few days in his company, asking lots of questions. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what would they say? And then very often it might say, oh, okay, I need to read what he says about this. And you would go off to the book to refresh your memory because you've forgotten what he would have said, but you've had that seed sown that he's good for this. So I better go and check what he's done in this area or this field because I need to do that, whatever that was. And so these things become these seeds that are sown. They come from experience or like
Um,
what these people.
uh, yeah, sorry. And it's not just referring to some gurus that this can be a good um, example of like seed being a guidance. It's not just us thinking about some guru doing some special things and we want to kind of take on their wisdom. It's happens in everyday life as well. So I have an example in my case where it was something to do about maths and my daughter having an exam. So she comes home and she says, oh, it was very difficult. And do you know what happened? She says, I felt stuck and I thought, somehow this thought came to me, what would my mum do in this case? And then she actually fixed it. She had an idea, she got herself unstuck, and she was really impressed with herself. What
It's
would my mom do? What would my dad do? What would my sister say? What would my best friend say? And it doesn't need to be a guru.
no, and it comes from you demonstrating at some point that you've got a balanced view of whatever it is. Because if I look at integrity and authenticity, I have a role model. It's really about a role model, somebody that
Hmm.
you hold in high esteem for this particular thing because they demonstrated in your relations with them that they have an acute sense of this, and consequently you're tapping into that person. And for yours, it might have been, you know, it might have been stability and like rational thinking and reasoning things out and not getting overwhelmed by something. And and I guess that's ultimately where you can support. your kids as they grow up, because they're growing. Yeah, same with me. They're growing up in a world which is a bit different, and you can empathise with it a bit, or like have some compassion for their scenarios. But at the end of the day, in order for them to be resilient and to stay when you're no longer there for whatever reason, you may be a different country or whatever, they need to be able to function. And our responsibility, is it not, is to sow the seeds for growth so that they become a balanced, human being who is able to sustain themselves in the way they behave in the world. And that's all you can hope for. Like, you're a gardener of your children, aren't you? I mean, that's
Exactly.
until they no longer need the gardening.
Because, and this is our concluding kind of sentence, to wrap it all up so we don't go too long today. Praise to the man who plants a tree knowing he'll never have a chance to sit under it.
Or woman, for this matter.
Well, I was going to say they'll never have a chance to sit
Like,
under it, but it's all with these, I'm very confused with all these pronouns.
like, yeah, that's one.
I think this comes from an older time when women were not planting trees.
Yeah,
They were busy raising kids and being at their best, what they do best, nurturing, um, caring, and all of that, while men had the strength and the tenacity to go out and dig holes and put trees in place, and when it's cold.
yeah.
So
So
it's okay. It needs to be like this. We women shouldn't be offended by this. It's actually a good thing, I think.
like, this is a metaphor, of course, because planting a seed and knowing and not being around to hear or see or witness the result of the seed you may have placed in the ground there. And of course, it's true for in all walks of life. And you know we never know what's going to be the outcome. It could be the trees cut down, or they're building a housing estate or whatever. Just, you just don't know what the future's likely to hold. But just put the physical action of putting it in and watching it grow into a strong sapling,
Hmm.
probably like a very thin shadow caused by a small sapling, and hardly going to shade you from the sun in a hot day. But like, it's just the very fact that I'm doing this for the future, whatever it holds. I have no, and isn't this why we have kids? At the end of the day, we're perpetuating the human race, and we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. AI could kill us all off. Nuclear war could finish us all off. Ending in a positive note here. But we could reach for the stars and cruise off and do all sorts of wonderful things. Who knows what the future holds? But yet we still have kids, don't we? People are still having children when there is a threat of global war. People were still having children in the First World War, in the Second World War. They had hope. And I guess, you can, this is all about hope, isn't it? It's sowing a seed of any description is about wishing the best for the future in whichever. Look at the situation with the allotment. Okay, we're talking about planting seeds, and you said to me, "Oh, if I get an allotment, will you help me?" And your imagination probably was, "Well, we'll dig a bit, plant a few bits, and see what happens," type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
hopefully we might get something out of it, and then it's taken on a life of its own. That seed was sown, and it was like, well, now we've dug a bit, we want somewhere to sit. Okay, well, let's do that. And then, it'd be nice if we could grow things in the protection from the rain, and which is a bit more, and then the polytunnel, and it just went on, and then we had no idea that what we were going to create. And the idea keeps building. Like, I'm sure in the fullness of time, it'd be a community food source of the whole allotment producing more food, and people saying, look, you're not really growing much on your allotment. Do you mind if we borrow some of it and grow some food here and everyone can benefit? Yeah, why wouldn't that happen? I don't know. It's an idea, and it's a seed,
Yeah. But the
and
good thing about some seeds is that they can develop and then adjust and turn into something else and mature instead of from an acorn we become an oak. It can become a pine. Because
yeah, or it attracts something which embellishes it and turns it into a forest.
yeah.
Like there's just all sorts of outcomes that can happen. Or it becomes a squirrel farm. Um, so, you just don't know what's going to happen around the corner. But the key is that the sowing of a seed, it might be just inspiring somebody to do something which they wouldn't have thought was possible, but now you've shown them the potential. They go off and they do something amazing. It may not be the same, but it's amazing for them, way beyond their expectations of their own ability and capabilities. So,
Absolutely.
and you never, and the key here, really, to finish off with, is you just don't know. And you very often, if you've inspired someone to do something, it's lovely when you hear of it, but it's very often not the case. Like we may post pictures which inspires someone else, and you never knew that person, and you never will
Yeah.
meet that person, but they've been inspired.
Unknown are the ways of God. There's another quote from the Bible. I don't know what's going on with me and the Bible these days. I was talking about the seeds earlier, falling on fallow ground, and now this. Oh, yeah, maybe I need to check this out. Seed.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you for watching, guys. And if
Yep.
you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to it. Subscribe to the channel, not the episode. And if you like it, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Um, we'd like to hear your comments as well. So there's a comment button underneath, so go for it. And thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye bye.